Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight. We appreciate that. A lot to get into. The NFL and its players still cannot come to an agreement, but that doesn't necessarily mean training camps won't start on time. Players are not happy about this development. We'll talk about it. Also, the Pirates played an exhibition game last night in front of no one, but there was crowd noise, and there are a lot of things happening there at PNC Park we'll discuss. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown revolves around the Pittsburgh Penguins, who had a inter-squad scrimmage yesterday and one that produced some interesting results. And here to talk about it is our panel, Rich Walsh, my colleague here at KDKA over in Studio B, Andrew Fillipponi, the Pony Express, up at 93.7 The Fan. Pony, I want to start with you. Twitter seems to already have been completely overwhelmed with sentiment that Tristan Jarry won a job yesterday because Matt Murray gave up 7 goals in a scrimmage. So my question to you guys tonight is, if you're Mike Sullivan, how much emphasis do you put on this training camp versus a player's past, especially in big games, versus what happened this year, where Tristan Jarry was better than Matt Murray? What would be your way of determining who gets the start against Montreal, Andrew?
Well, my way of determining it would be based on the caliber of player. I think what a guy has done in postseason crucibles before, Bob, carries a lot of weight. We know Matt Murray has won 2 Stanley Cups, but, you know, we see guys in training camp all the time shake off rust. That's the whole point. When a regular season or playoff ends, they show up a month before and they work their way through the cobwebs. So anybody out there that wants to make a goalie change based on what happened in a practice setting, I believe, is out of their minds, unless you went into this thing believing that they were even. And both goalies are aware that this is a competition for a starting job, and I don't look at it that way. Murray is going to have to fail in the playoffs, Bob, before I pull the plug.
Well, I guess I'm out of my mind. I was at practice all week, and Jarry has been the better goalie in practice, and I understand it's just training camp. But, look, I went into this as both goalies were even coming into this, but I think Matt Murray was going to get the nod because he does have that past experience. But, look, we're 3 years removed to that, guys. I mean, what has he done lately? If we're talking about past experiences, Matt Murray has been just a below-average goalie here the last couple years, right? So maybe I take my chances with Tristan Jarry, like Mike Sullivan did with Matt Murray over Marc-Andre Fleury a few years ago. Maybe we see a similar type move. I mean, I'm with you that I think Matt Murray deserves to get the start, but he hasn't looked good at all, guys. He hasn't looked good at all. And I understand you're going up against the 6 best forwards of the Penguins, but the other teams have pretty good forwards too.
Yeah, but to me, that also made a statement potentially. And I don't know if this is the case or not because Mike Sullivan did not address it. But he had his A group versus his B group. The A group was all the top 2 lines and the top defenseman and Tristan Jarry in goal. The B group was the 3rd and 4th lines with other defensemen and Matt Murray in goal. Andrew, is there anything that you can deduce out of that? Was he making a statement that this is the team that I'm going to roll with right here, and we're going to see what happens in this game?
If all the starters except the goaltender were on one side, or the goaltender in question, yeah, I would read into it. If team 1 was stacked with, was it Richie? Was it all the great defensemen?
No, it was the top players, and that's why I thought Matt Murray has the edge here, because the top guys on the team were going against Matt Murray.
Who was Letang and Dumoulin? Who were Letang and Dumoulin playing with?
They were with the black team.
Well, then that would be for Murray. I think that's a bad omen and a bad sign.
I think it's a good omen. Don't you want it? You want your best goalie to go against the best players,
No, you want to see what
right?
Tristan Jarry can do, don't you? Because you've already seen what Matt Murray can do in those situations.
Wait, I think the question here was the lineup
right.
somehow a signal or a sign? And it seems that way to me. If it were flipped, I think we would say, oh, well, here's Mike Sullivan's starting lineup. And so Jarry, the goaltending thing, is the only debatable, I think, spot up for grabs right now. And I think that that's an indicator that as of right now, Jarry in Sullivan's mind might be ahead. And he would be basing that off of performance this year, right? Jarry was in the top 10 in save percentage. He made the All-Star game. He's been better than Murray in 2020.
Yeah, no
but what
question.
does that matter? That season stopped 4 months ago, guys.
But he was the
Why
better
does that
goalie.
matter?
The way I read into this is Matt Murray is ahead right now because he's going against the best players. right? You want to get Matt Murray against the best players because Matt Murray's going to face the best team.
That's not how I interpreted it, Bob. Is that how you looked at it?
That's the way I look at it.
I did not interpret it that way.
That's the way I look at it.
I interpreted it Tristan Jarry.
Why would you want your starting goalie to go against all your B players, all your minor leaguers? You don't want that, right?
And
so that's
again,
why Matt Murray was on the other team.
Unless he's saying that this is my team right here, and we're going to split them up, or we're going to have these other lines go against them. But I don't know. That's anyone's determination to figure that out. I don't know. I want to ask you guys this now. What happens? It's a best of 5. It's not a best of 7. The rest of the series all will be best of 7. But Andrew, when you get to a best of 5, if you lose the first game, and Murray, hypothetically, let's say he starts it, or Tristan Jarry, if he starts it, but the goaltending was inadequate in that game and they lose, what do?
You change. I would change. If they lose a game and they look like they're just kind of going through the motions and it's not like a 5-1 game, even if they just lose, Bob, kind of a lazy, laissez-faire, boring type game, I would make a change. Because you've got to get a spark. You can't afford, I think, to preach patience in a 5-game series, especially when, even if you like Matt Murray or like Tristan Jarry, you'd have to admit that the gap between the two is very small. So the second the Penguins get down in a series, I would make the switch to the other guy. I really would.
I 100% agree. Here's my question to you guys. Who's the starting goalie for Game 1 right now?
It's Murray. I've said that all along. I'm not going to change.
I think it's Murray, too, but I'm starting to sway the other way, depending on how these practices go this next week.
I would have said Murray was my starting goaltender, but based on what you guys are telling me from practice on Saturday, then I would bet right now Sullivan wants Jarry in there.
Well, but I read into it the other way, though. I mean, you and Bob seem to think that Jarry, since he was with the top 6 forwards,
Richie,
and the best defense.
Why wouldn't Sullivan why wouldn't he have the starting goaltender work with the top pair then and get used to getting the puck to them?
I thought you'd want to have the starting goalie go against those guys. You want to see you want to put your best goalie against the best players. That's the way I look at it.
Nah, I mean, there are a lot of ways to look at it.
I understand your point,
but
I look at it the other way.
Bottom line is going to short series and goaltending will be key because Carey Price, even though he's not the old Carey Price, he's still good enough to win a series, although there's a huge difference between the skill level of Montreal and the Pittsburgh Penguins. All right, Rich, Sidney Crosby went out yesterday with something. We don't know what. They don't say. We're not going to know. He wasn't at practice again today. So this is going to be the way things are now moving forward in this COVID Cup or whatever you want to call it, or any sport that has to deal with this. Guys are going to come in and out of lineups when you least expect it. Do you think the NHL should make people aware of what they're dealing with? And I understand that this is sort of a HIPAA thing when it comes to COVID, but I'm talking about if there's another injury involved, whatever happened, upper body, lower body.
I think they have to make people aware. Right now, people are panicking in Pittsburgh. Is Sidney Crosby going to be ready? I mean, from my understanding, it's nothing serious, but the fact that he didn't practice today, that makes me think that maybe it is a little bit more serious than we think. Tomorrow is going to be a huge day because they're off on Tuesday. I think there should be. I think they need to come out and let people know, like, hey, especially because, you know, gambling has a lot to do with the injury, injury list in football. So it's going to have a lot to do with it in hockey, too, right? So you would think that Sullivan and the NHL needs to come out and say, hey, Sidney Crosby has a lower body injury. We think he's going to be day-to-day, week-to-week, whatever it might be.
I think we got to get to a point where we move hockey into the 21st century, guys, and they've got to disclose more specific injuries. The idea now that you could just say upper body, lower body, I think that's antiquated. I think it's archaic. With the proliferation of sports betting and people want to know information, the freedom of information, of sharing it, I think we should say it's a knee injury. He twisted his ankle. It's a knee sprain. It's a broken elbow. I'm shocked that where we are right now does not dictate that coaches and organizations are more open about player injuries. It's that way with every other sport but hockey.
But they're paranoid,
and it doesn't make sense to me.
That's what they've said. They think guys are going to target you if you have a knee injury. If you have a hip
injury. And that's not true in football?
Right.
I mean, come on. That's a contact sport on every play, and we know everybody's injury.
When we come back, we're going to switch this subject. But later, I want to get back to the hockey in our fourth segment here because I want to talk about reseeding and how important it is for those teams in the round robin to do well. But first, I'm going to tell you it's exciting when a team moves into a new building. That's certainly true with the team at number 1 Cochran Hyundai South Hills and their spacious new facility, even though they only moved really less than a mile up the street. Right now, for a limited time, get special grand opening offers in both sales and service. It's the new number 1 Cochran Hyundai South Hills, now conveniently located at 3220 West Liberty Avenue. We're talking Pirates next. Number 1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by Number 1 Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.